Welcome to ZoomInData. Today we're diving into one of the most in-demand skills in the Microsoft world, Power Apps. If you're preparing for a job interview, or planning to switch your career into Power Platform, this video will be extremely helpful. In this session, I will be covering the top Power Apps interview questions along with clear, easy-to-understand answers. Whether you're a beginner learning Power Apps for the first time, or an experienced developer revising core concepts, this video will help you strengthen your fundamentals from the ground up. So let's get started with the first question. 1. How do you decide the right data source for a Power App? The first and most important step is understanding how the data will be structured and used. If the app only needs simple lists with basic fields, SharePoint can work, but if the app needs relationships between tables, Dataverse or SQL is a better choice. The second factor is security and access control requirements. Apps that deal with sensitive data need role-based access, auditing, and field-level security, which Dataverse supports much better. The third factor is future scalability. Even if the app is small today, choosing a scalable data source avoids rework when data volume and user count increase. Example: a basic leave tracker can use SharePoint, but an HR system with employee hierarchy should use Dataverse. 2. What risks come with using SharePoint as a backend? SharePoint lists are designed for collaboration, not for heavy application workloads, so performance can degrade as the list grows. Managing relationships across multiple SharePoint lists is difficult and often leads to duplicated or inconsistent data. When many users update the same list at the same time, data conflicts and overwrites can occur. 3. How does Dataverse support enterprise data management? Dataverse provides a structured and relational data model, making it easier to design clean and maintainable applications. It includes enterprise-grade security features, such as role-based access, auditing, and field-level permissions. Being built on Azure, Dataverse supports high availability, scalability, and reliability for large organizations. 4. What challenges arise when using multiple data sources in one app? Data consistency becomes difficult when the same information exists in different systems, leading to mismatches and confusion. Performance can suffer because the app must fetch data from multiple locations over the network. Error handling becomes more complex since each data source behaves differently during failures. Example: an app using SharePoint for employee data and SQL for payroll must carefully manage synchronization. 5. How does Power Apps manage data refresh? Power Apps loads data when the app starts, when screens change, or when refresh logic is triggered by the developer. Refreshing data too frequently increases network calls and slows down the app, especially for mobile users. Developers must decide carefully when fresh data is truly required and when cached data is acceptable. 6. What happens when data schema changes after app creation? Renaming or deleting columns can cause forms, galleries, and logic to break. Apps may fail silently, showing empty fields or unexpected behavior. Proper coordination and testing are required before making schema changes in production. 7. How does Power Apps ensure data consistency? Consistency is achieved through validations, required fields, and controlled inputs like dropdowns. Centralized data sources act as a single source of truth across multiple apps. Avoiding free text input helps maintain uniform and reliable data. 8. What are common data modeling mistakes in Power Apps? Storing too many unrelated fields in a single table instead of normalizing data. Using text fields where lookup fields should be used, causing inconsistent values. Ignoring reporting and future scalability during initial design. 9. How does Power Apps handle large datasets? Power Apps relies on delegation so that data processing happens at the data source level. If delegation is ignored, the app may load incomplete data, leading to wrong results. Dataverse and SQL handle large datasets much better than SharePoint. 10. What data sources are best for transactional apps? Dataverse is ideal because it supports validations, relationships, and security. SQL Server works well for heavy transaction processing and reporting. SharePoint should only be used for lightweight transactions. 11. How does Power Apps handle relational data? Dataverse allows relationships using lookup columns between tables. This avoids data duplication and improves accuracy. Reporting becomes easier because relationships are already defined. Example: orders are linked to customers instead of repeating customer details. 12. What challenges exist when integrating legacy systems? Many legacy systems do not support modern APIs. Data formats may be outdated or inconsistent. Performance and reliability may not meet modern app expectations. 13. How does Power Apps manage data permissions? Power Apps enforces permissions defined in the data source. Even if app logic tries to expose data, the data source security still applies. This ensures strong protection for sensitive data. 14. What are common data performance bottlenecks? Loading unnecessary columns or records. Using non-delegable operations on large datasets. Refreshing data too often without need. 15. How do data source limits affect app design? Limits control how much data can be retrieved and processed. Apps must be designed to work within these limits. Ignoring limits can cause missing or incomplete data. 16. What happens when multiple users update the same record? Data conflicts can occur depending on how the data source handles concurrency. Databases handle this better than SharePoint. App design should minimize simultaneous edits. Example: 2 users editing the same SharePoint record may overwrite changes. 17. How does Power Apps support master data management? Master data is stored centrally and reused across apps. This ensures consistent values across departments. Updates automatically reflect everywhere. 18. What risks exist when using Excel as a data source? Excel does not handle concurrent updates well. Data corruption risk increases with shared usage. Security and validation are very limited. 19. How do data validation rules improve reliability? Validation ensures data completeness and correctness. It reduces downstream errors in automation and reporting. Overall data trust improves. 20. How does Power Apps handle reference data? Reference data is stored centrally and reused. Drop-downs enforce valid selections. Maintenance becomes easier. 21. How do lookup fields improve data quality? Lookup fields prevent spelling and formatting issues. They enforce standard values. Reporting becomes accurate and reliable. 22. What happens if a data source becomes unavailable? App operations dependent on that source fail. Users may see errors or outdated data. Error handling and offline strategies become important. 23. How does Power Apps support auditing? Dataverse tracks data changes with user and timestamp. Audit logs support compliance and investigations. This is critical for regulated industries. 24. How do data source choices affect licensing? Premium sources require paid licenses. Licensing cost grows with complexity. Poor planning causes budget surprises. 25. What interview questions commonly focus on data sources? Choosing the correct data source for a scenario. Handling large data and delegation. Security and performance trade-offs. Thank you. If you found this video helpful, checkmark like, checkmark share, checkmark subscribe. ZoomInData. More Power Apps interview and tutorial videos coming soon. Stay connected and keep learning.